Hey there, I'm Joe. Some folks call me Grandpa Joe these days, and I'm okay with that. At 73, I've earned every one of these gray hairs and laugh lines. But what I didn't sign up for was the excruciating lower back pain that nearly stole my retirement years from me. You know, the kind that makes you wince when you try to pick up your grandkid. The pain that has you counting the hours until you can take your next pill. That was me 3 years ago, sitting in my recliner, wondering if I'd ever enjoy a pain-free day again. Little did I know the solution wasn't another doctor's appointment or fancy gadget. It was something much simpler, and I can't wait to share it with you today. I remember the day everything changed. I was helping my daughter move some boxes into her new apartment. Nothing heavy, mind you, just normal, everyday stuff. But the next morning, I could barely get out of bed. The pain radiated across my lower back like electricity. My wife Barbara had to help me to the bathroom. At 70 years old, I suddenly felt 100. The doctor visits started then. X-rays, MRIs, physical therapy appointments. The diagnosis: age-related degenerative disc disease with moderate spinal stenosis. Fancy words that essentially meant my back was wearing out and there wasn't much they could do about it. Take these pills for the pain, they said. Try not to lift anything heavy, they said. Consider using a walker on your bad days, they said. A walker? At 70. I still had places to go, grandkids to chase, a workshop full of projects. This couldn't be my new normal. I refused to accept it. But the reality was harsh. I missed my grandson's baseball games because I couldn't sit on those hard bleachers. I stopped woodworking because bending over the table sent shockwaves through my spine. Even my morning walks with Barbara became shorter and shorter until they stopped altogether. Lower back pain wasn't just hurting my body, it was stealing my life. About 6 months into this nightmare, I ran into my old buddy Frank at the grocery store. Now Frank and I go way back, high school football teammates. He looked at me hunched over my shopping cart and hardly recognized me. "Joe, what happened to you?" he asked. I gave him the short version, expecting the usual sympathetic nod and some comment about getting old. Instead, Frank stood up straighter and said something that changed everything. I had the same thing last year. Could barely move. Now I'm playing golf 3 times a week. I must have looked skeptical because he laughed. I'm serious. It wasn't surgery or those pills they push. It was core strength. My physical therapist said my abs were letting my back do all the work. Started doing this senior-focused core routine, and within 2 months I was a new man, core strength. Abs. At our age. It sounded like something from those late-night fitness infomercials. But Frank wasn't selling anything. And he was standing there in the cereal aisle, looking 10 years younger than me, despite being 2 years older. "What have you got to lose?" he asked. What indeed? That conversation sent me down a rabbit hole of research. I spent hours on my iPad, reading studies about the connection between core strength and lower back pain, especially in seniors. Here's what I discovered: our abdominal muscles act like a natural back brace. When they're weak, which happens naturally as we age if we don't actively work them, our lower back has to compensate. It's like asking one person to do a two-person job. The research was clear. Multiple studies showed that strengthening core muscles reduced lower back pain in 70–80% of patients, often more effectively than medication alone. But here's what really caught my attention: the benefits for seniors specifically. One study followed people over 65 with chronic lower back pain who did targeted core exercises. After just 8 weeks, their pain levels dropped by an average of 58%. Their mobility improved by 40%. And these weren't professional athletes or fitness buffs, just regular folks like me. For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe I wasn't doomed to live my remaining years in pain. Maybe there was another way. But I'll be honest, I was skeptical too. At 70, I hadn't done a sit-up in decades. I wasn't about to join a gym or try to keep up with some spandex-wearing instructor half my age. I needed something designed for my body, my limitations, my reality. With Frank's encouragement, I made an appointment with a physical therapist who specialized in geriatric care. Her name was Diane, and she didn't look at me like I was broken or past my prime. She looked at me like I was a project she was excited to work on. "Joe," she said after evaluating me, "your back isn't the problem. It's the victim. Your core muscles have essentially gone on vacation, and your back is doing all their work." She designed a routine specifically for someone my age with my condition. No getting on the floor. No complicated equipment. Just simple, effective movements I could do in my living room. The routine had 5 key exercises. First, seated abdominal bracing. Sitting in a chair, I'd tighten my stomach muscles as if preparing for a punch, hold for 5 seconds, and release. Simple, but I could feel it working immediately. Second, seated marches. Still in the chair, lifting one knee at a time while keeping my abs engaged. This worked the deep core muscles without straining my back. Third, standing supported side bends. Holding onto a counter for support, I'd slowly bend sideways, working the oblique muscles that support the spine from the sides. Fourth, wall angels. Standing with my back against the wall, moving my arms like making snow angels, but keeping my back flat against the wall the whole time. This improved my posture, which Diane said was crucial for back health. Finally, the pelvic tilt. Either standing or lying down, I'd practice tilting my pelvis to engage the lower abdominals and stretch the lower back. That's it. 5 exercises, 15 minutes a day. No fancy equipment, no gym membership, no spandex required. Do these every day for 3 weeks, Diane said. Then come back and see me. I'll be honest, the first week was tough. My muscles complained. I felt awkward and uncoordinated. Barbara would catch me doing my chair exercises and smile that supportive smile that wives perfect over decades of marriage. But I stuck with it. Every morning, 15 minutes, 5 exercises. And by the end of week 2, I noticed something. Getting out of bed was a little easier. I could stand at the kitchen counter a little longer. The constant ache had dulled from a scream to a whisper. By the time I went back to see Diane, I was a believer. Now I'm not a doctor or a scientist. I'm just a retired electrical engineer who likes to understand how things work. So I asked Diane to explain exactly why these simple exercises were helping when expensive medications barely touched the pain. She explained it like this: our spine is essentially a stack of bones with cushions between them. It's designed to be supported by a network of muscles, like a tower supported by guy wires from all sides. The abdominal muscles are the front support wires. When they're weak, there's more pressure on the back muscles and the spine itself. As we age, several things happen naturally. Our discs lose some water content and become less cushiony. Our muscles, if not used regularly, atrophy and weaken. Our posture often changes, creating new stress patterns on the spine. The beauty of targeted core exercises is that they address the actual cause of the pain, not just the symptoms. Pain medications might make you feel better temporarily, but they don't solve the underlying imbalance. By strengthening my core, I was rebuilding my body's natural support system for my spine. I was taking pressure off the overworked back muscles and distributing the load more evenly. What's more, these gentle movements were helping to lubricate my joints and discs, bringing nutrients to areas that had been compressed and unhealthy. The most fascinating part: these benefits compound over time. Unlike a pill that wears off after a few hours, each workout builds on the last, gradually creating a stronger, more balanced body. This isn't a quick fix, Diane told me. It's rebuilding your foundation. And that takes time. But the results last. By the 3-month mark, my back pain had decreased by about 70%. I still had occasional twinges, especially if I overdid it, but the constant, grinding pain was gone. But the benefits went far beyond pain relief. Remember those woodworking projects I'd abandoned? I was back in my workshop creating. Again, started with small projects, worked my way up. Now I'm building a dollhouse for my youngest granddaughter. Those morning walks with Barbara. We're up to 2 miles now. Sometimes we even talk about getting a dog, something that would have been unthinkable a year ago. I've noticed other changes too. My balance is better. My posture is improved. Barbara says I stand an inch taller. I sleep better at night without the pain waking me up. And there's something else, something less tangible but just as important. I've regained my confidence. When you're in constant pain, you start to fear movement. You become hesitant, always worried about triggering the next episode. That fear had been limiting me in ways I hadn't even recognized. Now I move freely again. I pick up my grandkids for hugs without calculating the pain cost. I make plans without wondering if my back will let me participate. I've reclaimed my independence. And at this stage of life, that's everything. As I got stronger, Diane helped me adapt and expand my routine. We added resistance bands for more challenge. Incorporated more standing exercises as my balance improved. Added variations to keep my body guessing and growing stronger. The key was consistency, not intensity. 15 minutes every day was more effective than an hour once a week. And I learned to listen to my body in a new way. Before, every twinge of pain sent me into protection mode, tensing up, moving less, guarding the area. Now I understand the difference between the good discomfort of muscles working and the warning signs of actual injury. On days when my back feels particularly tight, I focus more on gentle stretching and mobility. On days when I feel strong, I push a little harder with the resistance exercises. This adaptive approach means I never have to skip my routine entirely. There's always some version of it I can do, no matter how I'm feeling that day. And that's been crucial to my success. Because the routine that helps your back is the one you actually do, consistently, mindfully, patiently. About 6 months into my journey, something unexpected happened. I became an evangelist for senior core strength. It started with Frank. I called him to thank him for that grocery store conversation that changed everything. We started meeting weekly at the community center to do our routines together. Then Frank brought his neighbor Harold, who had shoulder issues. I invited my brother-in-law Dave, who'd been complaining about knee pain. Soon we had a small group of 5 or 6 guys, all over 65, all working on our core strength together. We called ourselves the Core Codgers. Barbara rolled her eyes at the name, but she was thrilled to see me socializing again. Word spread. The local senior center asked if I would share my story at their monthly health seminar. 20 people showed up. I demonstrated the basic routine Diane had taught me, explained how it had transformed my life, and answered questions. 3 weeks later, the center director called. People were asking when I was teaching my class again. Male. Teaching an exercise class. At 71. It seemed absurd. But I thought about how that one conversation with Frank had changed my life trajectory. How many other seniors were sitting at home right now, believing that pain was just their new normal? How many had given up activities they loved because they thought their bodies were simply wearing out? So I said yes. And now every Tuesday morning, I lead a core strength session at the senior center. We've outgrown the small activity room and moved to the main hall. Last week we had 32 participants, ranging from 65 to 88 years old. I'm not a certified instructor, and I make that clear. I'm just a guy sharing what worked for me. We bring in professional physical therapists quarterly to make sure we're doing everything safely. But something powerful happens when people hear about back pain solutions from someone who looks like them, someone who's walked the same painful path and found a way forward. They believe it's possible for them too. The question I get most often, whether at the senior center or from friends who notice my transformation, is, isn't it too late to start? I understand the question. Society has conditioned us to believe that after a certain age, decline is inevitable. That pain is normal. That we should lower our expectations and accept limitations. But my experience, and now the experiences of dozens of seniors I've worked with, tells a different story. I've seen Helen, 82, go from using a walker to walking unassisted after 6 months of consistent core work. I've seen Miguel, 75, finally able to play with his great-grandchildren on the floor, something he thought he'd never do again. I've seen Judith, 79, cancel the back surgery her doctor had recommended as inevitable because her pain decreased so dramatically with targeted exercise. The research backs this up too. Studies consistently show that muscle strength can be improved at any age. The rate of gain might be slower than for younger folks, but the potential for improvement remains throughout life. One study I love to cite followed people in their 90s doing strength training. Even at that advanced age, they gained an average of 174% in muscle strength over 8 weeks. So no, it's not too late. It's never too late to improve your quality of life, to reduce pain, to regain function, to surprise yourself with what your body can still do. The journey might look different at 70 than it did at 30. The goals might be more modest. The progress might be slower. But the joy of moving more freely, of having more pain-free days, of maintaining independence, that joy is ageless. 3 years after that fateful grocery store meeting with Frank, my life looks dramatically different. I still do my core routine every morning. It's as much a part of my day as brushing my teeth. Some days I do the full enhanced version with resistance bands and balance challenges. Other days, when I'm feeling tired or stiff, I stick to the basics. But I never skip it entirely. I'm not pain-free 100% of the time. I don't want to oversell this or create unrealistic expectations. I still have occasional flare-ups, especially if I overdo yard work or sit too long on long car trips. But these episodes are now the exception rather than the rule. They're milder and resolve more quickly. And I now have tools to address them when they happen, rather than feeling helpless and at their mercy. My medicine cabinet has changed too. I used to have an arsenal of pain relievers, muscle relaxants, and anti-inflammatories. Now I rarely need anything stronger than an occasional over-the-counter pain reliever. But the biggest change is in how I view my future. 3 years ago, I saw only increasing disability, more pain, less ability to participate in life. I was mentally preparing for a declining trajectory. Now, I'm planning hiking trips with Barbara. I'm teaching my teenage grandson woodworking. I'm signing up for community college classes in subjects I've always wanted to explore. I'm living as though I have good years ahead of me. Because I believe that I do. So here we are at the end of my story, or rather at the middle of it, because I'm still writing new chapters every day. If you've stayed with me this long, I'm guessing it's because something in my experience resonates with your own. Maybe you're dealing with lower back pain that's limiting your life. Maybe you're worried about losing your independence as you age. Maybe you're just tired of being told that pain is the price of growing older. I want you to know this: you have more control than you think. Your body even now has remarkable capacity to adapt, to heal, to grow stronger. The key is giving it the right tools and being patient with the process. Start small. Be consistent. Celebrate tiny victories. Find support, whether that's a physical therapist, a friend on the same journey, or an online community like this one. And remember that every step forward, no matter how small, takes you away from pain and toward the life you want to live. If this 73-year-old former back pain sufferer can rebuild his core strength and reclaim his golden years, I believe you can too. Thank you for listening to my story. If you found value in it, please consider subscribing to Core Power Senior for more real-life stories and practical advice for maintaining strength and mobility as we age. And leave a comment below. I'd love to hear about your own journey with back pain or core strength. This is Grandpa Joe signing off for now. Here's to stronger cores and better days ahead for all of us.